Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. You're listening to a special episode that we're doing this just days away from the election. This is a special live recording on the campus of North Carolina Central University in Durham in the auditorium of the School of Education. My guest is political science professor, Dr. Jarvis Hall. Dr. Hall, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Dr. Hall is originally from Clinton, North Carolina. He graduated from NCCU State University with a bachelor's in political science. His Master of Public Policy degree is from the University of Michigan, and his PhD in political science is from Duke University. Professor Hall has taught, at A&T in Greensboro, St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, and Washington Lee University in Lexington, Virginia. Since 1995, he's been a member of the political science faculty here at NCCU. Hall served as chair of the Department of Political Science from 1998 until 2005. And 2006 to 2015, he was director of the Institute for Civic Engagement and Social Change, which he founded at NCCU. His research and teaching interests include Black politics, public policy, social movements, and grassroots politics. And that's only about half of your bio. So a distinguished guest we have today. So as we record this on Monday, just in the past week, we've had visits from Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Tim Walz, former President Bill Clinton, and today, former President Donald Trump, and he'll be here tomorrow. Clinton and Walz were here in Durham this past week at Lyon Park Center. Why are they coming so often? And even as, we'll find out in the next few days, even more to North Carolina. Why so frequently?
Well, first of all, I want to say hello to everybody and hope everybody's feeling well today. And I hope everybody, if they have not voted already, will vote soon, either during the early voting period or certainly on election day. North Carolina, along with 6 other states, are called swing or battleground states or purple states. North Carolina will play a very important role in determining who becomes president of the United States. And it's because of the Electoral College and the fact that North Carolina is in the top 10 in terms of electoral votes with 16, and the fact that when the candidates look at what path do they have to victory, North Carolina is a part of that path. And again, it's a part of that path because of the number of electoral votes, but also the fact that North Carolina is sort of swung back and forth. It's not a clearly defined swing state, but it did vote for Barack Obama in 2008. But since that time, it's voted for the Republican candidate for president. And so because of that, it is viewed as a swing state, and it has a lot of electoral votes.
What do you think the motivation is for the candidates to come more than once? Why come once a week? Is it about driving turnout? Is it trying to get them more excited about the candidate? To show that they care about the state, as opposed to say that Harris and Trump each came once in October. Why so often, and all of their surrogates too?
Well, this is going to be a turnout election, and it depends upon who can turn out the people that support them. On the Harris-Walz side, there's still a lot of people still not quite sure who they are, what they stand for, even though they have put out there a lot of policy pronouncements, but people are still trying to make up their minds. What we find is that even though we say it's a close election, when we look at the polls, there's still a lot of undecided and unsure voters. And so they're really going after them. And so when you see the places they are targeting those independent voters, unaffiliated voters, undecided voters. And so in order to get them out, they really have to come several times. And what we always tell people, if you're trying to get somebody to do something they might not ordinarily do, like vote, unfortunately, is something that they should do, but you have to engage them at least 5 to 7 times in some way. And so that is through social media, it's through phone calls, it's through other kind of media, but it's also face-to-face, seeing them and getting to know who they are and what they stand for and what kind of character and judgment they have. And so in order to answer those questions that people still have, they really need to see them face-to-face.
Kamala Harris her visits, I think, may be official. I don't know if it was the campaign. She had been to your alma mater, A&T. Has a presidential candidate come to NCCU in the past several years that you recall? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the visits that candidates make to HBCUs and the voting power there.
Well, you have to be careful mentioning A&T around here, but yeah. So during the 2008 cycle, Barack Obama came. Very exciting time. He came over to the football field. When he ran again in 2012, Michelle Obama came over to the gym. Also, when Hillary Clinton ran, Tim Kaine, who was her vice presidential running mate, actually came on campus. We've had many surrogates to come from time to time. So yeah, people like to come to HBCUs because they have an opportunity to talk to voters who could play a very important role as a part of the electorate. And so yes, North Carolina Central University is an attractive place for people to come to actually mobilize people to vote.
What's the, people may have recalled a few months ago, and then I know I'd interviewed you for a story I'd written about the power of the voting power of HBCUs and the Divine Nine, and Kamala Harris being this different kind of candidate, you know, having gone to Howard and being a member of the Divine Nine. How do you think that was months ago? We talked about maybe it driving enthusiasm. Now that we're, you know, just days out, and then fundraising also, do you see that as having a significant impact on turnout?
It's helping to drive it. What's been amazing about this particular election cycle, not only in terms of the candidates themselves, but how we got to where we are, especially on July the 21st, when Biden dropped out, and that really changed the landscape. And so what you saw, though, was just a tremendous explosion of interest and excitement about what the possibilities are now. And because of that, that has led to a great deal of excitement, a great deal of attention, because of the background of Vice President Harris. What we see, of course, is that it's really had a significant impact on certain segments of the electorate, and especially HBCUs, especially the Divine Nine, but there have been examples of other parts of the electorate that have been excited by the Harris Waltz ticket. And because soon after, she became the person who would represent the Democratic Party for president. What you saw were, you know, women for Harris, Black men for Harris, white dudes for Harris, Latinos for Harris. All kinds of groups began to form. And so the Divine Nine, the HBCU networks that exist, because you have to know that HBCUs don't just exist isolated from each other. They talk to each other, they share ideas, and still within the time that we have left in this election cycle, I think we are going to see more action that will be related to HBCUs and really trying to get people out to vote.
Do you think former President Obama will come back here in the next week or so?
Well, if he's listening to this podcast, I would like to extend an invitation for him to come to the Sloping Hills and the Verdict Green to visit us here at North Carolina Central University. So we don't know of anything right now, but as you know, things can change very quickly during a campaign. And especially if there's certain movements in the polls that may say, well, we need some help here and we need some help there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we would see somebody of that stature come to North Carolina Central University, or maybe even the vice president.
Mm-hmm. You'd mentioned polls. Who do you think looks at, I guess, uses polls the most? Do you think it's the voters? Do you think it's the campaigns when they're deciding, tactics they might want to change, looking at recent polls? How much credence do you put in them?
In polls?
Mm-hmm.
A poll can tell you what's going on at that moment. It's a snapshot of what is taking place when the poll is taken. But it's a very important one because it helps to inform strategy and tactics and the deployment of resources. And so that becomes very important, obviously, to the campaigns. It's also important to people because, again, you get this sense of excitement. People like to be a part of, especially if they see a significant change going on. And so when they hear, and unfortunately, a poll is put in terms of a horse race, that this person is ahead by a nose and that person is behind. But it has a lot of information there. But as we know, especially over the last few election cycles, polls have not always been as accurate as we would like for them, but it gives you a sense of the general trends as to how things are going. And so I think they're very valuable. And in the absence of polls, what will we use in order to determine who's winning and who's losing, and how are we going to use it? And if I'm a part of a campaign, how are we going to use our resources?
Well, going off of polls too, of course, the presidential race has everyone's attention, but there's a whole lot of other people, candidates on the ballot, and immediately down ballot is the governor's race. How would you describe the North Carolina governor's race this year with Democratic Attorney Josh Stein and Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson? Maybe to someone who hasn't been in North Carolina the past months, how would you assess that to someone who isn't already familiar? How would you even describe really the race this year?
Interesting. No, I mean this. I think Jordan mentioned it that this race, when you go around the country or you're talking to somebody from outside the state who has some interest in politics, you tell them that you're from North Carolina, they mention that particular race, right? And they mention it primarily because, if we're going to be frank about it, because of who the nominee is on the Republican side and all of the baggage and, for lack of a better term, scandal that is related to Mark Robinson. And what that creates, of course, is an interesting split screen and the contrast that exists between the two candidates. And it'll be hard to explain to somebody not from here, or even from here, what's going on with that race, other than it's a real contrast in terms of experience, in terms of character, in terms of judgment. And what those polls show, of course, is that there's a widening gap between Josh Stein and Mark Robinson in the favor of Stein. And I suspect it's going to stay that way. And then the question becomes, is he going to create a drag on other races in the state, and also on the presidential race in the state of North Carolina? Because what you have seen, all of you all have heard the Skirts commercial or the Skirts comment, right? And you've heard it not because of what he has put out, but because of ads that are out there, not only from Josh Stein or those who are supporting Josh Stein, but also ads for candidates for down ballot races who are trying to link their opponent to Mark Robinson. And so he has received more airtime and more face time than just about anybody else in a race in recent time in the state of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So I go back to what I said earlier. Interesting. And that's being kind, I think. So bizarre comes to mind also.
Do you think, Robinson is down, double digits in the polls compared to Stein, more significantly since the CNN report, tying him to a series of, racist, anti-Semitic, sexually explicit comments. And he has, since filed a lawsuit. He was down in the polls before then with things that he does say, I said this, I did this, including the skirt comment you mentioned. He's talking about abortion. Do you think there are, attack ads work, sometimes when a candidate uses their own words against them? Do you think that voters pay attention to that?
Attack ads are used because they do have some impact. And that's why they're used over and over from one election cycle to another. And so I think that Mark Robinson has some real problems. I'm not sure how he can come back from where he is now in the polls. And in fact, I think I read in the pages of the News and Observer, a plug, that one person, and I think this is emblematic of what others are thinking about, a person who is going to support Donald Trump for president, but will abstain from voting for governor because they just can't bring themselves, for whatever reason, to vote for Mark Robinson, given what they have heard about him, and especially the skirt / anti-abortion a comment that we've heard over and over and over again.
Do you think, and us just talking about the race and a lot of, as the reporter covering the race, a lot of the focus has been on Mark Robinson. Do you think that, does this compare to other gubernatorial races where the person who, if the polls are right, that if Stein goes on to win, it might be people voting either, against the other candidate and that's why you won, or not voting, and then, your own base turns out for you? Because I guess Stein himself and his policy is that more that, typical Democratic voters would, obviously just support him anyway if that's in line with their policy positions versus having someone that gets so much attention, that's the opponent.
Yeah, you want to, we hear over and over again, you want to vote your hopes as opposed to your fears. So you want to vote your aspirations. And we see aspirations in what people offer with regard to policy and healthcare and education and quality of life kinds of things. But also you have to vote on character issues and judgment issues because there will be some things that will come up that will confront at the presidential level as well as the level of governor. Some things that will come up that we didn't anticipate, that the candidates did not anticipate. And so then you have to think about judgment and character. And I'm saying all this to say that you, in situations like that, you may switch, it may be a combination of voting for your hopes in terms of policy aspirations and what you hope the person who wins can accomplish. But at the same time, you may be afraid of what may happen with this other person because of what you have found out about them, and especially from the campaign. And so hopes and fears, what will motivate people to actually vote the way that they do.
Looking further down the ballot, there's the other 9 council state races, and then all 170 seats in the General Assembly. And it looks like the Republicans will probably maintain control, maybe not supermajority, but majority in both chambers. How do you see the next governor working with them with the changes that, it looks like it'll still be Senate Leader Phil Berger, but House Speaker Moore is running for Congress in a favorable Republican district, so he'll be leaving. And that dynamic will change from Governor Cooper, Senator Berger, Speaker Moore, which are the 3 names we've all heard always together, the past several years. How will that change North Carolina, do you think?
Well, of course, leadership means something. Elections have consequences, and with Republican control of the General Assembly, that means, of course, they can pursue their agenda. But if it's not veto-proof, then that means the governor will play some role, and that will give the governor some leverage with regard to policy, because the power to say no is a very powerful one. And so they would have to work together. They would have to negotiate to deal with it, to deal with the various issues that may confront the new legislature.
Are there any down ballot races that you're watching or that you think are interesting?
Well, all of them are important. We have heard more about probably ad-wise. I imagine the Attorney General's race is interesting. It looks to be very close between Jackson and Bishop. Of course, almost rising to the level of the governor's race in terms of the contrast would be the superintendent of public instruction between Mo Green and Michelle Morrow, and the differences between them and the contrast there. So that is an interesting race. State auditor, that we usually don't think of a lot of these down ballot races, especially for council of state, as important, but of course we know that they impact our daily lives in some ways that we don't even realize. But state auditor would be an interesting race. So I would never say that one is not important, So I would have to say that they are all important, but certainly, as I said, Attorney General and the Superintendent for Public Instruction, and especially that race too, because as we know, state government plays such a significant role in education. You would know better than I, but 50% or more of the budget actually goes toward education. And so that person would play a significant role in terms of the future of education in this state and how we marshal resources to educate our children. And from a lofty position, that's important for the American dream and going from rags to riches with a good education and all that kind of stuff, So education is very important.
Appropriate to say here in the School of Education, right?
That's
Which,
right.
as you all know, is named for former lawmaker Mickey Mashad.
Mickey Mashad, that's right. That's right.
What are some memorable election nights that you think just over your lifetime, your time as a political science professor at any level, national, local, state?
Well, I've been here since Roosevelt was president, so no, but I've been here since 1995. But I have to say that I'm often moved by the actions of our students. And sometimes I'm surprised by what they are able to do in terms, and I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised by what they have been able to do in terms of getting their peers and colleagues involved in the process. And I think here at NCCU, we have done a good job in terms of civic engagement, and a part of that is rooted in the community service program that we have had here for years. And I see some colleagues here that have been involved in that for years. And so that has imbued in our students a sense of civic engagement. And that has been so important. But the election that really stands out for me, other than the ones where we had these large marches to the polls, was in 2008. I mean, that was just a special election when Barack Obama was elected. I had been doing some television for another outfit. And so I left that station, and I said I'm gonna drive by campus because we sort of knew what the outcome of the election was going to be. And I just wanted to drive by campus just to see what was going on. And as I got close to campus, I could almost feel a buzz. I could hear the students. They were just so excited. And I'd never seen that before. Because that election certainly, they felt they played a role in making that happen. And it gave them some sense of hope. And that is one of the most important things that we can do as we attempt to guide and to direct and follow, in some cases, what our students are doing. But that election and the buzz and excitement, the students were all over campus. They were roaming around and just cheering, and it was just amazing. And also tell people that at that time my mother was very ill, and I can remember, and hope I get through this part of it, but I can remember going to tell her that America had elected a Black person as president of the United States. People didn't think that would ever happen in their lifetime. I know I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. She didn't think it would happen in her lifetime, but it did. and it sort of showed the possibility of America and what America could and should be. Now, we've sort of gone back and forth with that, but it just tells you why it's important to be engaged and what the possibilities can be. And so we hope that that kind of spirit will carry on in this election cycle, and that we can see an important role played by not only young people on this campus, but on campuses throughout the state and throughout the country, and so that they can show that they played a role in turning America in the right direction.
What have you seen over the years on campus about how political science students have changed, or just students in general, not necessarily political science students? You talked about that feeling on campus, and in 2008, President Obama was elected. What have you seen over, a couple of decades now, or do things change very much, as the typical college student?
I guess one thing, and this is just one element of it, is the role of social media. We were just having a conversation about the importance of TikTok and stuff like that. So where to get the information from? And I was telling you guys that I was raised in a News and Observer family, or household, rather, I should say. We always had the News and Observer there, so I should get some credit.
You do.
So now young people get their news and information and share information in different ways. And so as professors, as faculty, as staff, we might not always know what that is. And so we don't know what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's, I won't say it's important for us to know what they're thinking, but how they are learning. And so that has been one of the major things, is just the changes in technology and the explosion of social media.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, for people to hear more about you and why you entered this field, both academia and political science. What drove you? What's kept you too? Because that's also part of it, right?
That's a good question. When I went to North Carolina A&T State University as a political science major, like many who went into political science, I wanted to be a lawyer. But my mind changed while I was there. I was introduced to what was then the emerging field of public policy. So I wanted to go into public policy. At that time, I was very idealistic. Like a lot of people, because I call myself a child of the civil rights movement. I wasn't directly in the streets at the height of the civil rights movement, but I was certainly affected by the civil rights movement, and especially its idealism about what could happen. So whatever I was going to do, it was going to be an effort to help people. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it. To look at injustices and to try to, in whatever role I would play, to right certain wrongs. And I viewed law as a way to do that. I viewed public policy as a way to do that. So I went into political science because I did have an opportunity to teach at North Carolina A&T State University. And that really change, I said, well, this is what I wanted. This is what I really want to do. Because I took that job because I was, one, unemployed, and I thought I could do this for a year or so and then go into public policy stuff. But I had the opportunity to teach at A&T, and I just loved it. And I just loved the opportunity to have an impact on the lives of young people. And what drives me, even today, is when students come and tell me the impact that I had on their lives and what they are doing. And especially if they're doing things that is also in line with trying to help people, trying to make the world better. And so that's always been what has driven me, and it continues to govern what I do.
I think that's a good way to wrap up our conversation. Is there anything else in these days before Election Day that you think people should know, should think about?
Well, just to vote, of course, and to remind people that elections do have consequences. It matters who wins and who loses. When something happens that you said, well, why did this happen? Especially with regard to public policy and what goes on with government, it's typically because of who was elected. Not only who was elected, but the fact that they can appoint others too that make decisions that can have an impact on your life. And so our democracy doesn't run on its own. It is fueled by people who participate in it. And if we don't, it is not hyperbole to say, because you hear often, especially during this election cycle, that our democracy is at risk. And in my judgment, that is actually true. And the risk that is there is not because of those people who have ill intentions for our democracy. It is at risk because of people not fueling our democracy with their participation. And so if we don't do that, then we will get our just desserts with regard to what happens with regard to our democracy.
Okay. Thank you again to our guest.
Note to end on.
For our guest, Dr. Jarvis Hall, political science professor at NC Central University in Durham. For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan. Thank you for listening and being here for our live podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.